For those of you who are on the call, my name is Alicia Mathlin. I am a wellness, maven, holistic nutritionist, yoga teacher, meditation instructor, conscious living guide. And the purpose of these deeper wellness talks once a week, Wednesdays at 12, is just to kind of give you a reset point in the middle of the week and connect with you guys in ways that I don't always get to because, you can't make it to a class or you just don't have the time, and I totally get that. So let's just jump right in. If you have any questions for me about the topic of stress, and stress is what we're covering today, you can just type it in the chat section of the call. And so if you look at the menu bar, there's a little, what are those things? Those Charlie things. They'll help you communicate with me during the call. So let's get into it. Today's topic is stress. And I wanted to start with, our idea of stress. I think it's something that we think happens to us as a result of extreme pressure or challenging situations. And the reality is, stress is something that we kind of create within ourselves as a reaction to what's going on in our lives, right? So a lot of people say, I'm stressed, I get stressed, and they sort of think of it as an arbitrary thing. They don't realize that it's actually something that they are creating within their own bodies, within their own minds, in response to what's happening. And so what I hope to do today is teach you a couple of tools that will help you manage stress a bit better. Also kind of maybe demystify stress. It took me a really long time to understand what stress really is, and I hope what I've learned can help you, so I'm going to share that with you as well. I'm looking at the camera and I'm looking at the screen, so just bear with me, but I am seeing you. I'm happy you're here. As I said, if there's anything, you can type it in the chat section of the call, and I'll stay on maybe about 15 minutes after to answer any of your questions, okay? And I will take the record button off at that time as well, so that it can just be you and I. So when I was probably in my 20s, I was a real estate agent at the time, and you don't have regular hours. You definitely don't eat well. I used to have a Red Bull for breakfast, believe it or not. And I was stressed all the time. Every time something happened, I was stressed. But if, my assistant or a secretary didn't type something correctly in a contract, I got stressed. Or, if a client was late, I was stressed. And I was generally reacting with stress to everything that didn't go my way, right? And that speaks a little bit about control, but we'll get back to that. And in time, what I found was my body was keeping the stress. The stress didn't go away. It didn't, it wasn't like a reset thing where like the next day would come and I'm starting at zero. No, like this stress was accumulating in my body, right? So much so that when I hit my late 20s, I got mysteriously ill. And when I say mysteriously ill, I mean that, like, to this day, no doctor has ever been able to tell me what happened. I've done my own research and my own learning, and I've been able to kind of piece things together. But it was a mystery at that time. Needless to say, I ended up in the hospital. North York General Hospital, and I was there for about a week, which is very rare for hospital stays, but they really couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was beyond exhausted. I felt emotionally drained and weak. It felt like my life was beating me up, and we were in that battle every day. So I got out of the hospital after that first week without any real information about how I could heal or what changes I could make. And I kind of went back to my life the same way. Red Bull for breakfast, espressos throughout the day, reacting poorly to everything, not really sleeping, not necessarily having the best relationships in my life. So all these things came together, and a year later, exactly the same thing happened. A year later, there was the same mysterious illness. And this time I was very fortunate that the doctor that was tending to me actually said, "You're fine. You just need to change your life." Right? Did you guys just go like, change my life? That's a big one. And I asked him to sort of elaborate, because what does that really mean, change your life? And for me at that time, it meant quitting my job. It meant ending a toxic relationship that I'd been in on and off for 10 years. It meant renegotiating some of my friendships and some of the relationships I had with family members. It was a really, really challenging time, and I would even say a really stressful time. But what it did was give me the space to get to where I am here with you now, and being able to share with you my own journey and what I've learned, and why I probably haven't felt stressed out in a few years. I know that sounds strange, and I'm going to explain to you how that's actually possible, but it is possible, and that's the good news. So it took me a lot longer than a 30-minute call to demystify stress, but I'm going to do my best to give you a summary of what I know and see if that at least gets you on the path to managing stress better and eventually not experiencing stress quite the same way. The first thing that I learned about stress was that it actually had to do with my inability to be in the present moment. I carried around a lot of baggage from my childhood, and no matter what situation I found myself in, it came with the weight of feeling inadequate, insecure, unworthy, all of those things. So that wasn't necessarily happening in the moment, but because I had all this unresolved stuff, I brought this like big heavy suitcase with me and plopped it down beside me in the present moment in every situation. And what that meant was when people would say things to me, before it landed in my mind or my heart, I would filter it through the, I am not worthy, I'm not good enough, or you're not smart enough, any of the internal messaging that I was holding on to. And what ended up happening is that just the smallest thing, right? Let's say, for example, my assistant not doing something right. I assumed, or I took it on as, this person doesn't respect me, right? And that's not necessarily the case. Perhaps this person's just forgetful. Perhaps this person, is human and they make mistakes. But at the time, every little thing that happened felt like a reflection of who I was based on my past. And it was probably one of the hardest things to learn, right? To put down that suitcase, because in a way it's like a security blanket as well, right? It's really great to carry this stuff with us because it keeps us from having to deal with the reality of where we are in the present moment. And so in time, and I still do it a bit today, this is not about getting to this final destination of perfection. I don't believe in that at all. And I definitely don't think that perfection is a worthwhile goal. I really, really believe in progress though. And so what I've come to know about stress and the present moment is that if I'm carrying the weight of my past, the weight of my messaging from the past, especially the messaging from people we love, right? When we're young, the people we love or look up to, they really inform how we feel about ourselves. And if you're not getting consistent messaging that reinforces your sense of self, it's really, really easy to carry that negativity with you into the present moment. And so what I want to say to you, and this is just a small exercise that you can kind of tuck into your day. Take a moment, a pause in any situation you're in, and you can take that pause. Don't think you have to rush to answer, rush to reply, rush to have a reaction, okay? Take a pause and ask yourself if the intensity of what you're feeling in the moment is entirely based on the present, right? Because so much of what we feel has to do with what we're carrying with us and not in the moment. And I found that as time went on and I was able to stay present more and more, stress kind of fell away from me, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk to you about is the idea that, and this is another thing that I've learned, the idea that stress has to do with a poor relationship with time. We ultimately feel stressed because we don't think we have enough time. And sometimes we look at time in this sort of warped sense of view, right? We think, oh, I only have 5 minutes. Oh, I only have 30 minutes. Oh, an hour, a week, a month, whatever, to achieve our goals or to manage situations. We forget that all of the energy we're assigning to being stressed out about our perception of time is using up time. It's a hard thing to wrap your brain around, but 5 minutes is actually a really long time, right? I've already used up way too much time on just the first thing, but it's there and it happens, right? We fill our minutes and our moments with the energy of worrying, with the energy of the past, and time has a way of getting used up when we're doing that, right? But what if we came to every moment and really, really understood that 5 minutes is a lot of time? It's a lot of time to breathe. It's a lot of time to transform. It's a lot of time to change things, right? So if we can look at time not as an enemy, not as something that's controlling us, but rather as something that we embrace. And we learn to not be reactive with time, but instead to work with time, to understand that time is our friend. And if we manage it and organize it properly, without filling it with things that don't serve us, we actually have the time that we need every day. And we can experience this through breathing. I know we always talk about that, but if you're breathing like this while you're trying to figure things out, you're going to get more stressed. You saw how quickly I came to shortness of breath with that. But if you're actually taking an inhale and an exhale before you think about things, before you do things, before you send that email, before you try to figure things out, that's a really great way to make time be really what it is for you. And that's a servant, right? It's something that works for you. It's not something that's an enemy. Okay? So those two things have been the most effective things in my life. That's really taking the time to understand that I need to be in the present moment to not feel stressed and to be available with my complete capacity, mentally, emotionally, physically, right? And not having this drain happening because I'm carrying my past or I'm carrying my path with me, okay? And then again, the second thing is understanding that time is your friend and renegotiating your relationship with time. So much can happen with a deep breath. So much pause and stillness, right? And I want to go back to something I said in the beginning. Stress is your reaction to things. It's not something that's happening to you. It's not an external force doing something to you. Stress is your body, your mind, your heart reacting to what's happening. And the good news about that is that you actually have the power to control that. You actually have the power to decide if what's happening out here is really going to impact you in here. And I'm not saying you're going to get to a place where nothing's going to bother you. I'm saying you're going to get to a place where you can make a decision about what's bothering you or what can bother you. And that's power. Okay? And I can't stress that enough, right? When I say I haven't been stressed in a long time, it doesn't mean that I haven't had anxiety or I haven't felt overwhelmed. But I haven't kept myself, what I mean is I haven't kept myself in a constant state where I'm starting to impact my immune system. I'm starting to impact my joints, like my aches and pains. I'm starting to get headaches. I'm starting to be reactive and irritable with the people I love. No. That can't happen anymore. Anything can happen outside of me, but I can still determine how profoundly it impacts me. Okay? Next, I have my tips. I feel like this call went super fast today. Certainly, if you have any questions, please write it in the chat, and I'm going to stay on for 15 minutes after the recording has stopped and answer your questions and chat with you a little bit, okay? So the first thing I want you to know to help you manage stress is fear and faith cannot coexist. And I really want you to understand this, because a lot of the times when we feel stressed, it's because we have a fear of something happening or not happening, or we have a fear of something that is happening. I would like to offer you the possibility of believing in yourself enough that your sense of self outweighs your fear. Because your fear is rooted in the belief that somehow you're not enough for what's going on in your life. You don't have the capacity to deal with it. And I would like to offer to you that you do, you might, but you'll never know unless you give yourself a chance. So number one, try to think about the idea that fear and faith cannot coexist. So if you're living in a place of fear, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to discover what you're capable of. This is a practice that takes time, but it is a practice that changes your life. The second thing that I can't stress this enough is, and I'm sure you've all seen this meme, but stop saying yes to shit you hate. And I'm sorry to swear, but so often we agree to do things that we don't want to do. And this is a problem that I think is unique to women, because we're taught very early to self-compromise, and we're taught very early that self-compromise is normal, and it's not. You have a right to say no to the things you don't want to do without an explanation, without an excuse, or any of that. And yeah, for 1 second, maybe that person's not going to like you. But if they can't respect what you need to have happen in your life, if they can't respect that you're not available, then maybe they're not your friend. Or maybe that moment just needs to pass and you help them create new boundaries with you, right? So number one, faith and fear cannot coexist. Number two, get really good at saying no. This is a game changer, but get really good at saying no. Number three, pay attention to how you nourish yourself. This is so important. We often disconnect that what we put into our bodies informs how we experience our lives. So there are certain foods that will make you feel more anxious, that will make you feel more stressed, okay? The first one is caffeine. I'm not telling you don't ever have it, but I'm saying if you feel stressed and anxious all the time, maybe take a look at your caffeine intake. The second one is sugar. I know, sugar is the hardest thing to let go of, and I'm definitely not saying let go of sugar. But I am saying be aware that the more sugar you have in your diet, the more anxious and stressed you're going to feel. Okay? The third thing I want you to think about is drinking water. If you don't have enough water in your body, if you're not hydrated, your body is going to send signals of stress. Like, you'll feel stressed. So really think about hydrating every day. I personally drink 2 to 2.5 liters a day. I know it sounds like a lot, and definitely when you first start out, you will have to go to the washroom a lot more. But in time, it will help you with your hair, skin, and nails. So there's the vanity thing, but also you'll just feel so much better. The other thing I want you to know about how you nourish is that your serotonin and your dopamine, which is your feel-good chemicals and hormones, they're actually stored in the gut, right? So if your gut isn't healthy, meaning your digestive system isn't working properly, or you've got a lot of bad bacteria, you're not going to feel good, okay? Serotonin and dopamine are made in the brain, but they are stored in the gut. We used to think that if I felt stressed in my mind, I'd have stomach trouble. But we're learning that the communication happens both ways through our enteric nervous system, right? So if you have stomach distress, digestive issues, IBS, any of those things, it's very easy to associate that to feelings of anxiety, sadness, stress, depression even, okay? So take a look at that, and we can definitely talk about that more. That's a whole other call, okay? So those are the things that I have to say about nourishing yourself, okay? So remember, let's go back. The first one is, did I just go blank? No, I didn't. Fear and faith cannot coexist, okay? That's a reminder to believe in yourself before you doubt yourself. Number 2, say no. Full stop, exclamation point. If you don't want to do something, and you know when you don't want to do something because you can feel it in your body, and some voice in your head starts going, no, 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 no. Honor that. Listen to yourself. It's okay if someone doesn't like you for a moment or thinks less of you. What you think of you and the self-respect that you maintain in that moment is far more important. Number 3, acknowledge that how you nourish yourself plays a tremendous role in how you feel as far as your ability to manage stress. So no skipping breakfast, no starving yourself through the day. No, you've got to nourish yourself. And I'll do a call about nourishing for energy and capacity, okay? The 4th thing I want to offer you is, of course, doTERRA essential oils. As I've said before, these oils are changing my life. And when it comes to stress, there's 2 that I really rely on and that I love. So the first one is, and I'm actually just diffusing it while we're talking because the tech stuff stresses me out. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't stress me out, but it's not my favorite thing. The first one is doTERRA bergamot. And bergamot is really, really good. It's kind of citrusy. What it does, it's called the oil of self-acceptance. And to be honest with you, first thing in the morning, I get up, I put a drop in my hand, just like this. I rub my palms together, and I deeply inhale. And I deeply exhale. The reason why I do this is because bergamot, I had to do it one more time, it felt so good. Bergamot brings out feelings of confidence, brings on feelings of optimism, brings on feelings of self-acceptance, and all of those things are such a great way to start the day. I always diffuse it when I know I'm going to be teaching. I diffuse it when I teach my corporate yoga classes. It's one of those oils that both grounds you and lifts you at the same time. It's so beautiful. And because it's doTERRA, you can just apply it to your skin right afterwards and get that scent. The other one, and this is the one I carry with me every day, and I keep it in my purse and I wear it as my perfume. It's called doTERRA Motivate, and this is their, proprietary blend. This one brings about feelings of confidence and courage. And who doesn't need that throughout the day? I just actually rub this one just behind my ears like that, one dab or daub. I think I meant to say drop, but just one behind my ears, and then a little bit just under my chest, just above my chest here, so that I can, when my body heats up, I can get some inhaling of it. It smells kind of sweet and a little musky. It's a very elegant scent, so I've decided to make that my perfume instead of inhaling toxic things. So, number one, faith and fear cannot coexist. Okay? Believe in yourself before you doubt yourself. Number two, say no. Say no, say no, say no. That almost sounds like a chorus to a song, but say no when you need to. This is so important, and it's an important thing to practice and get really, really good at. Because every time you say no to something from an authentic place, you're saying yes to yourself. And that builds self-respect, and that builds self-worth. So it's important. Number three, nourish yourself accordingly. Okay? To feel stronger, to feel more confident. And when I say feel, in this case, I'm really saying like physically, mentally, emotionally. You have to nourish your body in a way that supports you, not that takes away from your ability to show up in the world. Okay? And number four, where am I going? Number four, find the essential oils that work for you. And I say specifically doTERRA essential oils because the essential oil industry is unregulated, and I'm really, really passionate about you having certified pure therapeutic grade oils so that you can inhale them, you can ingest them, you can do whatever you need to do with them. My favorite is bergamot and Motivate. Okay? With that in mind, let's close our call. I can't believe it's already time. Let's put both feet on the ground. Let's find the natural extension of our spine and really sit up as much as possible. Find your majesty, as I always say in my yoga classes. Roll your shoulders back and close your eyes. I want you to inhale and really, really, really fill your stomach with air. And exhale and let it all out. Inhaling again, really fill your stomach with air. And exhale it all out. And I want you to keep breathing this way. And I want you to just listen to my words. As you breathe, say to yourself, I call in my ability to rise to the occasion. I call in my ability to rise to the occasion. Continue to breathe the way you're breathing. Inhale and exhale. Slowly open your eyes. I hope you continue to breathe that way throughout the day. As always, I'll send you a newsletter with a recording of this and the tips that I shared in case you missed anything. I'm going to do something. I'm going to stay on the call. I'm going to take off the record button. And if you have any questions or you want to talk to me about something related to the topic of stress, you can type it in the group call. So anybody who's on can see what you're saying. But I think it's good to share our stories because then that way we learn from each other. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that we can do as women. Okay. My name is Alicia Mathlin, and this has been the Deeper Wellness Talk. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.